Hi class, this is week 9 of our survey research course, and we are more than halfway through this semester. In the first half of the semester, I've been talking about the steps you need to take in order to design and develop a survey instrument, from the review of literature to writing your own survey questions. I have learned a great deal about your research interests, and given the varieties in the topics you've chosen, I believe some of you will decide to use an online survey for data collection, and others may choose a different mode of data collection. So, today's topic is about the different data collection modes. Generally speaking, there are two different categories. One is the so-called self-administered questionnaire. In this general category, you may use online surveys or paper-based surveys. For paper-based surveys, there are options to do them by mail or in person. Paper-based surveys are no longer popular. As we all know, online surveys are the dominant trend. The second category is interviews. In this general category, researchers have the options either to do the interviews in person or conduct interviews over the phone. Next, I'm going to talk about the different modes of data collection in detail and compare them from the four aspects that I listed here. Whether an interviewer is needed, how the questions are presented, the role of computers or electronic devices, and how the responses are collected. Let's start with self-administered questionnaires, which are the most popular data collection mode nowadays. There are several advantages of this data collection mode. First, once self-administered survey instruments are used, no interviewers are needed. So respondents feel less pressured time-wise and less intrusion when answering the survey questions. Second, the low cost of online surveys is very attractive. Email or social media can be used to recruit study participants. So a researcher can reach as many people as possible at a very low cost. For data collection, there are online tools such as SurveyMonkey.com and Amazon Mechanical Turk for researchers to host their surveys at a reasonable monthly or annual fee. In case you don't know, the university provides Qualtrics for students and faculty to use at no cost. Another advantage is convenience. There's no human intervention needed during the data collection process. Online surveys present the questions visually on electronic devices, and the responses are keyed in by study participants. They can respond to the questionnaires online at any time of their choosing. In certain cases, researchers may need to use self-administered surveys that are distributed on paper. For example, when you visit a shopping mall and there are stores that ask you to try some new snacks and fill out a short questionnaire to evaluate the products. In some situations, researchers may need to get responses from a large group of people at the same time at a given location. For example, when I go to a classroom and ask all students to answer a questionnaire, I may not have other options than using a paper-based instrument. With the increasing popularity of electronic devices, this data collection mode is becoming obsolete. Still, I receive survey questionnaires in mail from time to time. Paper-based surveys share some common characteristics with online surveys. Neither use interviewers. Questions are presented visually, and in most cases, respondents can answer the survey at a time of their own convenience and with better privacy. However, there are more costs associated with the paper-based data collection mode. Time and money are needed to print surveys, hire people for data entry, and collect mailing addresses if surveys are to be mailed. For questionnaires by mail, it's always nice to provide mail-in envelopes along with them. There are specific considerations for online or paper-based data collection modes. Let's first assume that you plan to conduct an online survey. You need to decide on a few things. First, given your total budget, where are you going to host your survey and how long do you plan to keep the survey open for data collection? When you present the survey online, how many questions should you have per page? Will you allow respondents to skip questions? Will you provide incentives to increase response rates? If there are reasons that drive you to a paper-based questionnaire, there are several things that you always want to keep in mind. First, you need to assign a unique ID number to each of the incoming questionnaires that you have collected, and the ID number should be entered along with the data from the respondents when information is recorded into a computer. This will allow the researchers to go back to the original questionnaire if there are any problems with the recorded data in the computer file. The second thing is to prepare a codebook. If the data are collected on paper, they need to be entered into a computer file. A system needs to be developed for coding the information and entering it into the computer in a consistent format. This system should be compiled into a codebook, and everybody who will be part of the data entry needs to follow the codebook and stay consistent on the task. Finally, the project leader needs to evaluate the amount of work and consider whether it's necessary and affordable to hire staff to help with tasks such as gathering a mailing list, preparing envelopes, distributing surveys, and collecting and entering data. A major challenge shared by all self-administered surveys is the low response rate, especially when the questionnaires are distributed online or by mail. In order to improve response rates, it's important to make the survey look easy to complete. Also, in the invitation, let people know how important their contributions are, not only to your research project, but also to the community at large. Express sincere appreciation of their time and attention. It also helps if you could have an official sponsorship for your project that gives more credit to the value as perceived by the target population. Offering incentives is helpful too. For example, there's one time I received a mail-in survey and a $1 bill was included in the envelope. Wouldn't you feel bad not responding after getting cash from someone, no matter how small the amount is? Another popular option is to provide gift cards to a few randomly selected respondents for online survey studies. Most importantly, remember to send out follow-up reminders by email or by postcards every week for 2 or 3 weeks after the initial invitation. In the next video, we will talk about interviews and how to select a data collection mode for a survey study.